and we'll get started. Okay, so pleased that you all could be here. Still waiting on a few people to join. And while we do that, I would like to say that this topic at the end of every year is extremely important to me. I'm taking stock of where I've been this past year. We all generally are kind of looking back on the year and kind of having some topmost feelings about it, sentiments about it. And so today I'd like to teach you guys what it means to take stock of your energy and what that currency of energy means versus the currency of time or money. And then what we're going to do is a whole exercise on creating energy-based goals. So I hope today, as you join us, we respect your privacy, and to do that, you will be able to chat with me directly on Q&A. No one else in the group will be able to see what it is that you're writing, and I will be sharing things selectively because a lot of personal stuff comes up in these calls, which is a great thing because I do ask you to share. So you can use the Q&A feature to do that. Every now and then as I'm sharing, I will switch back to Q&A. So don't feel like I didn't look at what you just wrote. I will get to it. Get away from your workspace. If you've been sitting in front of a computer, change it up. Go find a quiet space, a cozy place, somewhere you feel comfort. A snack, perhaps, a drink, maybe a pre-holiday drink. I don't know, hot chocolate. I don't know, wine, something. And of course, something to write with. This is my plug for today, and it has to do with why I'm here, actually. So I don't know how many of you actually know that the world is celebrating its first World Meditation Day on Saturday, day after tomorrow. And finally, 193 countries have actually signed off on an accord with the UN to say that they recognize the benefits of meditation at so many different levels in organizations, in schools, in prisons, the impact that meditation has on our moods, our emotions, our focus, our ability to create harmony in our space and within ourselves. So I'm very, very happy. And at the end of this session, we're actually going to be doing a little meditation because I had some requests in the last 4 weeks as we did this to say, why aren't you finishing off with meditation? The truth is that there was so much to teach and I kind of ran out of time. So today I've tried to create the time. And then what we'll do is, because the session's recorded, I hope on Saturday, you will take a few minutes to listen to the meditation that we will do today, because it really is focused on bringing in the new year. Okay, so very excited about this, and that's the reason I'm actually here in Quebec. I'm at the Art of Living Canada headquarters for the Art of Living, which was the first place at the age of 30 that I learned how to meditate, and I always come back and pay homage. But the best part about this year has been the fact that I've been able to bring my 80-year-old mother to participate in a 4-day course, which I had taken 20 years ago. And so it's amazing. And I'm very proud that she has actually kept to her practice in the last 4 months. So I hauled her over here to do that, but she's doing terrific. So I'm in this nice chalet and I pick her up and I drop her every day. So that's why I'm here. So let's talk about homework. Yeah, I'm that person who will give you your homework first. So take note. If you haven't participated in the series of 4 mental fitness webinars I did over the last month or so, if you haven't had a chance, it is a beautiful journey of how it is that we adopt energy management in your life. Right? So we all learn about, oh, I don't have the energy, and how do I manage my energy? And you hear people say, well, manage energy, not time. And I mean, that sounds great. But if you really want to go and learn about those building blocks to doing that, go to our YouTube channel. It's fairly new. And go and listen to the recordings there. I think it might give you some of the building blocks of what we're going to do today as well. Okay, so highly recommend going there. Oh, and subscribe if you like it. The premise of all of those webinars has been the fact that we have currency of time, and we're always feeling like we're running after time and money and things that feel extremely finite. And the more we do that so-called rat race, we feel like it's a race against time, 24 hours constantly, the more depleted we feel because of the anxiety that we put into everything. You know, don't have time for this, had an hour, took 3 hours, you know, and that voice inside us feels as if there's limitation and not an abundance. So why do we do this work? We do this work because energy is renewable. energy can shift from different parts of our brain to our emotions to our physicality. And so there is a whole science on how it is that we apply energy. And if we can learn to improve the quantity and the quality of energy that we bring in the time that we have, think about productivity then, think about focus then, as opposed to, I just spent 3 hours on this, but what if the quality of your energy in those 3 hours wasn't really optimal? Then you're not going to see the kinds of results and you feel depleted. So quickly, I want to share for many of you who are joining for the first time over here. We've had so many people in the last 4 weeks attend this series for various reasons. I'd like to share some of those reasons with you. You may see yourself or others that you know in these reasons. Some have come from a very reactive place. When we are in adversity, that is when we wake up the best, actually. So here are some of the things that people shared about themselves and why they're coming to learn mental fitness. So, anxiety most of the time, feeling exhausted, feeling high levels of emotionality, and even that affecting their social circles, losing friends, right? Not being able to look after yourself physically. And so the weight gain and the lethargy, which then, obviously prevails in other aspects of your life. When you put in 100% on the job, 8-10 hours a day, and yet you don't feel like you're having an impact. Sometimes it's important to look at the energetic influences around you for that. Some of us have grown tired of some of our relationships and are really looking to say, hey, what do I need to do to revive this? Or am I just in the wrong place? And, habits that make us every day. And so we have habits that mask us as well, right? We mask ourselves in habits that we form. So they're really an acknowledgement of some of the things that we do to mask what's really happening. And we'll be talking about that just shortly. And then, of course, a state of overwhelm and anxiety, which chews up energy instead of applying it to what you really need to get done. Some people have been coming to this, and this is really encouraging, that a lot of people came into these sessions because they wanted to proactively do something. It wasn't like there was a fire or anything, but how to conserve energy, how to handle certain situations better, how to stabilize mentally every day, how to get through an upcoming life change, how to manage good health all around, how to remain calm. All of these reasons that we seek to have positive experiences for ourselves every single day. If we had the tools to proactively do this, then that is the reason that these people were coming to our session. For those of you who've just joined us over the last 3, 4, 5 minutes, just going through the first few parts of what we're going to learn today. And if you have not had a chance to grab a piece of paper, and then we're going to be working today. So please do make sure that you're away from your computer or any other windows that are open and come be fully present over the next little while. I guarantee you it is going to be well worth your time. The Q&A is open, although I'm not checking it regularly. So every now and then you'll see me switch and we will look at any questions and thoughts that you have. As well, when I prompt you, do join us to participate in some of the lessons that we're going to have today. So when we saw how people were coming to these sessions, we really reflected on what's happening macro level in our society today. And here's a number of things that people have come to us with to do the aura experience. The purple circles actually show you what our clients have actually been experiencing, and so have come to the table to say, I need to learn how to be more mentally fit so that I can extract myself from the situation that I'm in and reframe my way of looking at that situation. And so this isn't about, one thing on the outside causing the anxiety, but here's the cycle that we get into. For example, if you have overload at work, if you've had job loss, if you're having to reskill yourself because of AI or whatever it is, your role's becoming redundant. Here's an example. Then you're going to get anxious. There's going to be some stress. You might be overworking. And when that happens, then we start to see us moving out into some physical health decline. We might start getting some form of addiction or some kind of masking habit that kind of helps us cope with it. We start to withdraw and start to feel disconnection. And then the more we do our playing in that space again, we then find ourselves prevailing in the same sort of cycle. So this is not outward in or inward out. This is a cycle that we go through. And what we're going to learn about today is how it is that we actually clarify what's causing what, and how it is that we apply energy to the right things that prevent us from getting into this cycle. I won't get into some of the stats there, but generally, when we talk about burnout across the world today, and those stats are very current, you will see that across many different demographics, it's roughly 50 to 60% of people feeling a sense of depletion and burnout. And while we're contending with that, here's the latest on what is required of you in the workplace. So human skills for the future, when people are interviewing for jobs, these are the different things you got to be able to display on the job. And what's interesting is that a lot of this isn't about yourself, but it actually has to do with skills that you can cultivate but leverage with others, like your EI, such as negotiation, such as the way you communicate, such as the way that you problem solve creatively. So taking charge of the cultivation of these types of skills is really centered around our own leadership of ourselves. And having a pathway to really, really optimize our mental state is what is really going to help us display these skills and retain the calmness and the collectiveness that people expect to see in us and that we wish to see of ourselves. So a lot of people came to these sessions and then went away and asked themselves, what if I could proactively just get a gauge on my mental fitness level? Would that be something that would then empower me to achieve what it is that is most important to me? And from that, if you do that, would I get more clarity? Would I be more confident? Would I have better control over my energy levels? And would all of that bring calmness? My answer to that is yes. And if you haven't really met me before, I'm Vishali. For those of you who've been coming week after week, thank you for being here today. And just bear with me as I get through this little spiel here, because there are some people here who haven't. And so I'm Vishali, and on the right side of this, you will see everything that I do in my life. And it's where I put my energy. And a lot of people ask me this question is like, before it used to be, well, where do you find the time? But as time has evolved, you'll see that a lot of this is about choosing where you put your energy, right? This multifaceted aspect of you. There are so many different rich aspects of you that you may not be mining into or even be aware of, because the brain is constantly focused on what we must do and not in a state of being and being present. On the left side of the screen, like many, many of you, we all have our hurdles. We all have our history. We all have our pasts. I kind of put that in some really tiny font because I'd like to believe that I prefer to put my energy on the things on the right. And with time, I have learned to shift my energy away from those things that cause me to be an anxious person, to suffer from anxiety, suffer from trauma, because we all had events like that, or any of those things that felt like they were taking away from me. And a lot of our clients come to the table to do exactly that, to mute what is really stealing from their current moment, their present moment, and the potential of that. So we have many roles to fill, and some of our greatest potential lies in our ability to mute what does not serve us. And after a while, when you practice that, it just becomes so innate. It becomes part of your nature and the way that you run yourself in order to do that. How do we do that? So our experience is really about teaching people about the four intelligences that school did not teach us about. We all learned to be, intellectuals, but I don't think anyone really sat me down and said, hey, you got to sharpen your adversity intelligence, the way you adopt change, the way you drive change, the way you make an impact, the way you interact and support other people, the way you co-regulate, self-regulate. So these intelligences are things that school did not teach me. Maybe they taught you, maybe you were lucky. It depends on which community and family you came from. But when we learn to mine into these intelligences, this is where we actually uncover different types of energy. And so for those of you who have attended today, I'm really pleased to say part of our aura experience includes a mental fitness assessment. And for those of you who are here, reach out to me. Later, I'll show you what to do. You can just reach out to me and set up some time, and we can actually evaluate your mental fitness levels and see how it is that we could improve those. So in a nutshell, I like to tell people that we teach how to generate, apply, and renew energy. Okay. And we're going to talk about types of energy and how we do that. But the reason we do this is because, decade after decade, as time seems to go faster, I don't deal in the currency of time too much, because otherwise I'd just be running nonstop. But the reason we do this is because we want to be sustainably well. We want to have sufficient energy for the many things that we want to do. So sustainability is a big part of this endeavor. And the other is that we seek to be understood by ourselves, understanding ourselves and understanding those that we care about, and making sure that they understand us. So developing understanding in your life with others and yourself is what leads to feeling a sense of fulfillment. And so that's why we do what we do. That's our big why. Now I'm going to stop sharing right now. And I'd like us to pick up your pens. Actually, you don't need to do that. You know what? Let's go to, if I can actually get my menu going here. Haha. Bear with me. This happened to me before. I'm trying to get to my Q&A. There we go. Q&A. All right. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is on your piece of paper. Here's a big question, or actually not on a piece of paper. Type it here for Q&A if you can. Please share with me. Let's start on a celebration note. I'd like to see what is it that was your biggest goal achieved this year? What was that one big thing you set out to do this year that you can go happily check? And even if you made a huge dent in it, that's progress. So I'd like to hear from you. What was that first thing that inspired you and feel happy about as you close off this year? And as I seek to get more answers on that, I see here questions. Are you doing the meditation on Alive? So we're going to do a meditation at the end of this session, first of all. Thank you for asking that question. There was a lot of requests for that in the last few weeks. And so, yes, we will do one. We will be recording it. And then what I've encouraged everyone to do is come back to that recording, which you will get at the end of the session, and find some time on Saturday, because that's when a lot of people around the world, as I said, in 193 countries, are going to be meditating. And let's raise the energy bar around the universe for multiple reasons. I wish more people would take time for their mental fitness. I deal with far too many toxic business people. Join the gang. Yes, not just business people. I would say there's a lot of toxicity. Don't get me started on, guys. I have gone through, this is my third Airbnb since Sunday night. I have moved 3 times with my elderly mother in order to get to the right place, because the first time I was misinformed about where we were relative to where we needed to be. The second time, the bathtub wouldn't work. And so I've moved. It's fantastic. Every time I go to pick my mom up at night from the ashram, she goes to a different house. So, and you know what's cool about that is how I manage my energy through that. There was very little emotion. There was just like, yep, I can do this. Let's move on. I know what's important for me. Okay, some celebratory. I was in a stagnant relationship for a very long time. And I may have taken the first step to getting away from negative energy and deciding to take care of myself. I still need to learn to love myself. Well, good news is you've actually already started doing that. And that is one of the hardest things to achieve, is that first crack at coming to the realization that I'm in the wrong place. And then the fear that sets in to say, what do I do now? And do you have the courage to execute the change? So mental fitness is about executing change, seeing the change, evaluating the change, sizing it up, and getting yourself into a very optimal state to execute on the change. So kudos to you. Anyone else? I'm trying to sort of scroll here as people share what their big achievements were this year. I'll tell you what my big achievement was. I managed to set up an offering for Aura for organizations. That was not easy. We set up an offering that was great for people, and it's doing well, and people are participating in the Aura experience. But I did a lot of service development work to really evolve that to a place where perhaps leaders in organizations may be interested in bringing them into the workplace. Okay. Let's talk about the next big question, which is, can you share a goal that you set out to have this year that you were not able to achieve? Was there something that you felt you must do? It is that important to you at the beginning of this year. And as you take stock at the end of the year, you're just like, didn't get there, tried different ways, and I didn't make it. Because, that's part of the growth journey, is just learning what works and what doesn't work. I'm looking for people to participate. Another one, I made a decision to pivot my business this year. I reached a choice point in life, and I feel I found new direction. My guru always says, take the first step. And suddenly the forest starts to look different from when it was a step before. So take that first step. I say that to myself all the time. Like when I had to start that fire, which is almost out now. An hour ago, I was sitting there going, first step, next step, next step. And then it got bigger and bigger. And then I thought I'll share it with you guys, but it's not quite so big anymore. So, okay, so why do we do this reflection? We're going to do a reflection in a different way in a second, but it's really important to acknowledge what it is that you've done, how much of it you've been able to do or achieve, and what it is that, just observe, what is it that you were not able to achieve? And why would that have been the case? For those of you who have joined us and don't know how to participate, we're in the Q&A, we're not in the chat. Okay. So if you kind of go, why can't I share here? Everyone's in the Q&A, join us there. And we do that because of certain people feeling comfortable sharing privately versus not. Okay, so let's come back to what we were trying to do here. So, bear with me. So, be helpful to get to the right presentation, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay. So the reason I ask these questions is because people come into these sessions going, how do I understand how to apply energy? So the first thing I'm going to do here is, some of you already saw this in the previous, is that there are 4 types of energy we have. We have physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's really important. You can pretend that you are made up of these 4 quadrants. And each quadrant defines a certain quality of our energy. So for example, the quantity of energy comes from our physical energy. And I don't just mean your body, but I mean also the things that you do with your time. Okay. Then there is the emotional energy, which really determines the quality of your energy. Okay. It's not enough to just keep pushing lots of energy to something. It's important to understand what is the quality of energy you're putting in. Because if it's not very good quality, you're probably going to take much longer getting where you want to get. The focus, which is a huge problem in almost every demographic right now, there are too many distractors. And so if we don't have mental focus, then we're all over the place. And that's exhausting as well. And then there's something that's called spiritual. Some people don't feel comfortable with that word. It's not a religious word. So I always go spiritual / purposeful. This really has to do with the alignment of you with your values. And that's what our whole lesson today is going to be about, alignment. So just remember as we go through this exercise that there is the quantity, the quality, the focus, and the force of your energy. All four aspects of yourself has to be invested in a goal. Not just one part of it, all four quadrants have to be nurtured towards the goal that you have set for yourself. And so the way you can look at this, and you can even draw this for yourself, right? And just say, here are four quadrants. Put this on a piece of paper and just say, my one big goal for 2024 was I was going to lose 20 pounds, maybe. And then just write one thing that you did physically to lose that weight. Perhaps it was to start running, perhaps walking every day. What did you emotionally do to stay focused on that one goal? How much emotional energy were you able to put towards that goal? Were you sinking under your past or the strife at home that took away from your ability to get fitter? It's really important that we're optimal from a mental and emotional standpoint in order to stay physically well. So the quality of energy that we put into our walking experience, for example, is what's going to make our walking enjoyable. The likelihood of you continuing to walk to lose that weight is greater if you are finding enjoyment and not walking and letting off steam, letting off, like putting it out there, how frustrated you are and who did what to you and so on. So cultivating positive energy. Are you focused? Focus means I set the time up. I even looked up what shoes to buy. I put focus into this activity. And then there is the force. And this is a rather complicated aspect of this explanation, is how much of your energy of walking is tied to your key values. What do you care about in life? If you care about health, then losing the 20 pounds makes sense, aligns with that. Then there's a greater likelihood that you will continue walking or running or doing the right things to lose that weight. It's really important that you get your head wrapped around this. So one big goal you've had in 2024, did you put in some physical energy? Did you put some emotional energy? A step you took? Perhaps you read a book on walking, or you watched videos on what the right way to walk and the way to do 30 minutes versus 45 minutes, and you kind of got into that space. You figured out what to listen to so that you could bring the right energy. That's a very simplistic example, but believe me, every goal you set has got to have energy from all four quadrants. So the question you ask yourself is, did you put all of your energy into that one big goal? And so when you think about that one goal that you did not achieve, perhaps it's good to come back to this quadrant and say, I wasn't really quite there emotionally. And yeah, because of that, I didn't walk every day. In fact, it just fell off the table 2 weeks later because I was consumed with sadness, with loneliness, felt depressed, just didn't feel motivated. I'll come back to the Q&A so you can type your questions there, okay? So here we go. Now we're going to be working on the pieces of paper that you have. This is really important. At the end of this exercise, my goal is to demonstrate to you how it is that you can set energy-based goals, okay? And why I like to do this sort of in your privacy, meaning on your piece of paper, is that I really want you to make this exercise relevant to yourself. There are 5 steps to set goals that optimize energy. Okay, so step number 1, and before we get to step number 1, the premise of what you're about to do is saying that I manage energy and not time. Because when I start to manage energy, which is renewable and can move, it's dynamic, then I feel a sense of empowerment that I can own this. And it's not like hours slipping through my fingers. I feel I have confidence that I can own this and that I can switch up my capacity in any one area so I feel productive, right? So this is the theory, the premise for what we're about to do now. So step number 1 on your piece of paper It is important. And if you haven't got this straight yet, clarify what you value most. What are those three things do you care about most? I've heard people say, I respect the value of compassion. I respect the value of discipline. For me, those are traits. What you value most in your life, the top three things. And here's a hint. I gave you a hint, okay? They got to be things that when you think about them, there are things that you want to grow, nurture, strengthen in your life in general. Now, these can pivot maybe every few years, depending on where you are in your life. But think about, what are those things? Like, is it that I want to nurture my children? I want to nurture my family. Okay. I want to strengthen myself. I want to become emotionally stronger. Emotional strength, mental strength is super important for me in my life. Think about the longevity of that value. And the important thing is that when you have values that inspire you, such as your family, such as your health, there's a greater chance that you will put the effort in because it inspires you. Certain activities that support those values may not inspire you, and we all have that drudgery in some aspect of our life. But important thing to say is, I'm inspired by this value. My career, I'm inspired by what I do in my career. And therefore, I care about my career progression. So write those three things down right now. For me, I will tell you, my health is my number one value. Because without my own oxygen mask, I cannot nurture other people. I cannot nurture my son and my relationships. The second thing is, for me, is my business. And the business that I've just started last year and have been fortunate enough to get so much momentum on, probably because of doing what I'm about to teach you here. And then there is my family. So think about what it is that really is those three things. Now, when you've got your three things there, and I'll just give you a couple more seconds, find out those three things and write them down. And then if you have multiple pages, you can go on to the next page. Number two, you have to set goals that are aligned to those values. If your goal is something random out there that has nothing to do with what you just identified as your values, it's not going to happen because you're not inspired by it. Okay? There's no urgency and importance to it. So for every one of those three things you wrote down, just write down one thing, just one thing you want to achieve in those areas of those three values. Okay? So I'll bring my same example back. If you said, I want to lose weight. Oh, sorry. Health is one of my greatest values, good mental, physical health. My goal for next year, for 2025, is to lose 20 pounds. That is your value aligned goal. Sustainability of goals depends on alignment with value. So now when you read that goal, you will see that, yeah, that goal actually does help me nurture my health, strengthen myself so that I can remain healthy. It's really important to write goals that are aligned with values. And here is why we get depleted, because we spend hours and days and weeks often doing things that are activities, or I don't know, commuting perhaps, that just isn't putting in the energy towards what matters most. I'm super sensitive about getting in the car and doing any long distance driving now. Like every single day, if I have to commute somewhere, I'm just going, how much energy? That's going to take my focus. That's going to take away my time. Emotionally, the stuff that's going on the roads these days, it just drains my energy. So I will find alternatives. I might choose to meet very early in the morning, or I might try to do a virtual meeting. I'm very careful with my calendar. So all I want for this exercise is that you have one goal for any one of those values. You don't have to come up with all three. If you have, super. Let's just take a minute to do that. Here's step 3. When we are able to take one goal that we just set for any one of our values, and we're able to create energy giving sub goals. I'm going to show you a sample of that next. Don't get overwhelmed. Just pick one value with that one goal, and then you're going to draw those same quadrants you did before, and it's going to look something like this. This is a sample. Okay, don't get carried away. And if you're smirking out there about marriage, here I am. Okay. How many of you are trying to revive your marriage? Marriage is hard work. Okay. So let's say this is your goal for 2025. You know, COVID happened and all kinds of stuff happened, and I'm still not on the right road with my marriage. The thing you got to do is draw those quadrants. Take your big goal that you just selected, put it up at the top. And then what you see here are physical energy sub goals, i.e., how am I going to create more physical energy for this goal? So if I want to revive my marriage, I'm going to have to say no to activities that take my time away from that goal, that don't matter. And by the way, I attended a wonderful webinar earlier today, and I learned about something called the Eisenhower quadrant. Guys, if you're often going, should I put time to this or not? What should I put time to first? I love this little simple model, which I will give you a glimpse at, but then you'll have to come back, maybe take a picture of it. I will show you. But let's come back to the bigger point here. The point is you need to have a physical goal. Name one. Just look at your goal at the top and say, physically, what is one thing that I can do to create more energy, quantity of energy for this one goal? And likewise, on the emotional side, I want to improve the quality of my emotional energy for this goal. And so if I want to revive my marriage, I feel as if one of the emotional goals I have is to explore what makes me feel separate from my partner. What is that separation about? Or it could be that I need to strengthen our ability to co-regulate. So when I do that, when we strengthen our ability to co-regulate, we improve the quality of emotional energy going into the bigger goal, which is to revive the marriage. Focus. I'm scrolling all day. That's not helping, especially when my partner's sitting next to him and I'm still scrolling, or I'm on Netflix. Where's your focus? How about we take that focus, that mental energy, and read a book together on co-regulation? How about we get educated about the need to co-regulate? So one thing under mental focus towards that one goal. Remember, you see the alignment: value, goal, energy sub-goal. These are 4 energy sub-goals to revive the marriage. The spiritual part of this is just non-negotiable. Probably sometimes people come to this place first. And in relation to this goal, for example, it is identify activities that make each person feel purposeful. Just because I find going to an ashram and secluding myself for 4 days gives me spiritual and purposeful energy doesn't mean it does the same for my partner. But it's important that he understands that this is important to me and what it does for me. Perhaps he would like to share it and experience it so as to get into my space. There needs to be some effort energetically to align spiritually. Okay, maybe we volunteer together. Maybe we take separate vacations and purpose-driven vacations together. The point here again, as you work through these 4, is you cannot achieve a goal without energy from all 4 quadrants. If all of you is aligned towards that one goal, the chances are much greater that you will make choices that will always, every day, every week, work to revive the marriage. I promised a glimpse at this, and I give due credit to my business coach. Where do I put my time? It's simple. We have things that are super urgent and things that are not. And there's things that are not important and there are things that are super important. And so in this quadrant, basically, there are the 4 Ds. If something is very important and not very urgent, you got to decide, do I do this or not? And when do I do it? If I'm going to do it, then we move to the quadrant on the left, which is coming in with the most urgent, most important. If you decide that that needs to move. Otherwise, maybe we don't do it. It's not so urgent right now. We'll do it now or later. But then there are things that we're doing without even knowing that are not super urgent. We just took on the pressure, because we must stand up for everyone in our life and our society. Not super urgent, but you know what? We haven't had the Joneses over for dinner in a year. It's super urgent. Suddenly we've just given it so much urgency. So things that are not urgent and not important, get it off your radar. It's sucking up energy just thinking about it. I can equate this to the number of marketing agencies that are reaching out right now and saying, hey, I love what you do. I want to market stuff for you. And it's coming at me like I'm drinking through the fire hose. And I've decided, no, that's not where I'm spending my energy, exploring this. And finally, if something is super urgent, but it's not important to me, meaning aligned with my values, I delegate it. Find somebody else who is super good at it, for whom it's really important, and I'll play my part in it, but let somebody else take the lead. I loved this. So if you're ever wondering over here, how do I create more physical energy? How do I create more quantity of energy? That's one way to do it. Use this quadrant, Eisenhower's quadrant, actually done by the President Eisenhower. You can look it up. Let's come back on track. So we talked about energy sub-goals, step number 3. You can do as much as you want to write your energy goals and so on. But if you haven't actually taken the time to clear the noise up here from whatever source of noise there is, and the clutter around you that is not conducive to you staying committed and inspired, it's not going to work, because your environment will constantly work against you. Who are the people? Who are the contexts? What are the conditions that are draining energy from you? And this is the hard part, because we don't always control them, but we have choices. Either we learn to contend with them, or we choose to move ourselves away from that, or we choose to shift things and decide what your context is going to be. For the person who shared about leaving, taking the first step to care about yourself first, your context, your home environment, your the people around you will dictate whether or not you stay on that path. Sadhguru, if you follow Sadhguru, I love this quote because it just says it in a nutshell, right? If you're not operating in a committed environment and you don't want to create that environment, don't do yoga. Because of course he wants us to do yoga every day. I'm just telling you, anything you aspire to do, you will not serve your intended purpose if the environment is working against you and you don't want to see it and do something about it. So think about those things around you that create the right environment for your energetic sub-goals. Now, how do you integrate energy sub-goals into each week? You got to do that. It's got to get on your calendar. And so I have this thing, if it's not on your calendar and you haven't cleared the path, you're not going to stay disciplined. It's going to fall off. Okay, so make a daily, weekly plan to dedicate. So I'm going to switch back to where were we up here? Right there. And I decided that I'm going to read a book every night. We're going to read 3 pages on co-regulation. It's got to be pinned. Kids have to be put to bed. I'm not taking night work calls. You're not going out with the boys 4 times a week. We're going to do this every single day because it's on the calendar. So really important to integrate your time, Make decisions accordingly, build habits that support that sub goal. If it means I need a nanny at night, otherwise I'm not getting to the gym, or I'm not getting to take my coaching session, whatever it is. Make decisions and habits that support your energy giving goals. Because when you do that, you're actually giving energy back to yourself, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. You're not just giving yourself away mindlessly, you're doing it consciously. And number 5, create systems to stay disciplined and accountable. And so go back to the recordings. People loved these 6 energy-based questions I ask of myself every day at night. 6, it's very doable. Did I or didn't I, and to what extent? I ask myself 6 energy-based questions. Go and look at recordings of, I think, the last 3. Everybody goes, what were those questions? Go back to those recordings on YouTube. I even post them on all the socials and say, what are those 6 questions? I mean, you may have a different system. I could do 3 webinars on systems. I'm a systems thinker. To hold yourself accountable, because you want to be accountable, you want to be persistent, and you truly want to be honest to yourself. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. So we're going to meditate. And I'd like you to find a space that you're in right now. Make sure that wherever you are, you're seated either on a chair that feels comfortable. No one can see you. So if you feel like my favorite place to meditate is on the floor with my best friend cushion, the yoga cushion that I market to as many people as I can. Buy yourself a firm yoga cushion. If you feel like moving to that space, do so. I want to share this beautiful experience with you now. When you are in that space, the first thing you're going to do is close your eyes. And just observe how it is that you are breathing. Just breathe normally. And as you breathe, I want you to become super attuned to how far down is your breath managing to get. If you're sitting upright with a straight back, as tall as you can be, you are able to expand your chest. It's almost like exaggerating your movement of the chest to be fully open, which means pulling your shoulders back. And as you heave in that air away from the chest, going lower into the belly, guide it with love into your gut brain. That strong, strong place of intuition that most days we don't pay a lot of attention to because we're working with our mental state. We can't listen to our intuition. And breathe in and hold for a few seconds as you breathe out slowly. Try to extend the duration of your out breath. As you continue to do this and your eyes are closed, you will start to take your eye gaze inside. Pretend there is some energy at the middle of your brow, and just turn your eye gaze towards the center of your forehead. And consider it a little door. A little door that when you open, there are 4 rooms. 4 rooms. In the first room, breathing nice and slow, take a look inside, because this is where you observe your physicality, your physical energy. And observe, don't get attached, just observe whatever it is, be impartial. What kind of physical energy do you experience? As you go through the entire day in your physical space, are you waking up physically energized? Or are you getting up unsure that you will get through the day? There's a dynamic quality to physical energy. It promotes movement. How capable and confident do you feel about moving and being that dynamic? This is the physical layer. Your body is the basic, most existential physical state of energy. Parking your observation now, you walk into your next room. And here, as you breathe nice and easy, look around. Even observe, do you perceive a big room, lots of room, or is it small? This is your emotional energy. Just as you walk through that room, think about, am I feeling positive? Am I feeling negative? Whatever it is, don't attach, just so it is. So you are. So it is. It is what it is. If positivity dominates, great. If negativity dominates, so be it. Tell yourself, I am fully empowered to change in the direction I wish. And as you move away from that room, leaving it behind, walking into your mental energy room. Here is where you apply your IQ, your agility of mind, where you put all your focus. And just perceive and just stand there and look around and say, I'm focusing on a few things every day, or I'm focusing on a lot of things every day. Are you mentally energized to be creative? Should you have to do new things or contend with change? Or have you no capacity because you're tired mentally? Whatever it is, it is. It's where you are today. And that moment is gone now. And finally walk into your place of spirituality. That one place where we actually cultivate the force of our energy. Whether it is a negative force or a positive, it is about the power of our energy. Here is where we nurture our soul in the alignment with what we care about the most, values. This is how we stay inspired. And then pulling away from all four rooms and coming to the center. Expand within your head and start to expand beyond yourself. Tell yourself how much bigger you're going to be. In every quadrant that you've just walked into, you are going to push the limits beyond your emotions, beyond your mental state, beyond all of that, so that you are one. You're one with everything, and you dissolve. That's how big you are. You just dissolve with everything around you because there is oneness, there is unity, there's flow, there's ease. Deep breath. And then open your eyes when you're ready. I wish you abundance of all of these energies in the upcoming year. So many of you were sharing as I was speaking. And I thank you so much for being so vulnerable to tell me how you've gained so much weight out of being stressed and struggling. Or that you are, walking away from the constant need of validation so that you can move forward. Thank you for that vulnerability. I'm always inspired by how many people come forward with their stories. If you loved what you did today with me, remember, you can always go to the link book.meetandvaya.com. I'll be sharing a recording of this on Saturday. Please use the recording to do the same meditation. So just forward if you have to and get to that point. Close your eyes for those 7-8 minutes and do what we just walked through. Go to book.meetandvaya.com. I will put that link right here. If you'd like to get that free mental energy, mental fitness assessment, it's one of the first things we do in the Aura experience, and have a conversation around that. Feel free to take me up on it. I'd love to. It'll open you up to my calendar. You can just book the time that works for you. I wish you all the best. I wish you so much abundance of energy. I hope that you will take this framework and you will take those 3 values and you will make sure the energy is aligned to those values with the right goals this time. I'm here to keep you accountable, and do look us up on our website as well. If you'd like to learn more about our experience, I'd be happy to do that. Everyone take care. All the best. Have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.